Hi there, I'm Dean Heskin. Thank you for tuning in to our most recent episode of our podcast entitled The Secret War on Cash. I have with me today my co-host, Chris Agelastos. Today and every day almost. There's only been a few that you and I have not been together on this podcast. Welcome back.
Yeah, that's
Thanks
true.
for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Always good. Always good.
It's always nice doing things with someone like you, Chris, because you could actually make even me look intelligent at times. So I appreciate it very much.
I'll take it.
I'll take it as well. Let's get right into it. Let's talk today about, in fact, our previous podcast, we were talking about some of the major problems that are happening out there in the economy. Looks like there's no shortage of them, and it's a process that's continuing to build in a very negative way. Something we'll talk about today that's building in a very positive way, is gold. And in this first article here, the bull market trend is likely to resume this week for gold. That's good news. And it's telling us to watch out for the breakout above $2,365 an ounce. Now, that's a big number when you consider we started the year at roughly 2,000 an ounce, and we're not even quite to the halfway point yet. And you're talking about over a 15% increase there.
Right.
So tell us more about $2,365 an ounce gold, Chris, and what's significant about that price?
Well, what's great is it takes me back, I guess, just 6 months or so ago when we were talking about, hitting 2,350 this year. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, you guys are crazy," right? And it wasn't just us; it's all the analysts that we read and work with. And look, here we are. It already hit a little over 2,400 just a few months back, and holding really solid in the 23s. And they basically come out here and say that 2,300 is a really solid floor right now. So if you can buy, anywhere near this low 2,300 range, you're in good shape. But hitting 2,365 is just going to signal that this is going to continue to go into a bull market. So there's a lot going on. A lot of turmoil in the European markets have helped as of late, and of course, all the central banks and even just personal buyers see gold as a safe haven. So people are running to it for protection, a hedge against inflation. And some of the European banks are already starting to cut interest rates. I know England, Bank of England, and the Federal Reserve here in the U.S. are considering cutting rates soon as well. So it's just one of those things where we have all the momentum and all the steam behind gold at the moment. There's very little downside risk with stability in the prices and a lot more upside potential. And even though we don't necessarily, I know when I'm talking to clients, I'm not really talking to them about how much money they can make. It's more about protecting their purchasing power, protecting their savings, and that sort of thing. But at the same time, if you can, buy when we're in a good range right now in this low 2,300s, and make some money in the coming months and years, and why not?
Sure. Well, and that's one of the things I found interesting about this particular article. They make a point of discussing or mentioning the fact that gold making the move it's made already, and gold making this move, crossing that threshold of 2,365. This is happening at the same while that the U.S. dollar is showing signs of strength. And the significance of that is there's been traditionally or historically speaking, the tendency where as the dollar strengthens that we see gold prices tend to soften up a little bit. But in this situation, on top of the things you've mentioned with, central banks buying, BRICS buying, institutions, individuals, et cetera, which creates that, obviously represents that demand factor. In this case, one of the things that would typically kind of pull the prices down, not even that's pulling it down. In fact, gold prices are going up in spite of that, which that's where if we look at the next article here, CC will put that up here in a second. This one gets into, some of the things that are driving or has been driving prices up. But what I found very interesting, and why I put this article with the earlier one, central banks expect to snap up more gold this year amid dollar pessimism. Now,
Hmm.
why I find this interesting, Chris, is the article we just discussed a moment ago. We're talking about how there's strength in the dollar. But yet, the rest of the world, when it comes to the dollar, I think pessimism would be a very safe word to be used.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that, when we listen to what some of the experts and analysts out there are talking about in these limited windows, time wise, of where the dollar is strong,
Hmm.
yet the rest of the world does not see the dollar strong. In fact, if anything, they see it as weak and something that they need to get rid of or get away
Right.
from. So, why is there this disconnect here? What are the central banks seeing maybe that in the other commentary they're not seeing?
Yeah, well, look, the central banks. I mean, they've made no bones about it. People are frustrated. When I say people, other nations are frustrated with how we've managed the dollar and how we've kind of weaponized it. They talk a little bit about that in here, as far as the sanctions and everything that the U.S. has held against Russia since the invasion in Ukraine. And people don't want to be caught in a situation where their dollar is not going to give them the strength and the backing that they want. Speaking of central banks, and so the dollar overall, even though the first article said, well, there's some dollar strength, well, it's relative. That's strength compared to other currencies which are also struggling. So I often say to people that maybe the dollar is the best currency out there compared to all the bad currencies, right? Everything is so bad that the dollar can look better than it really is. But
I used
at
to
the
tell people, Chris, it's the strongest currency in a room full of weaklings.
right.
That's what
There you go. That's right. And whereas gold, right, has a track record of being around for thousands of years, used monetarily, and so people know they can count on that. And
right.
the dollar again has had a good run overall, and there have been times where we have had legitimate dollar strength in the world. But those days are coming to an end. An article we talked about in our previous podcast was predicting somewhere in the next 3 to 5 years that we could see a complete collapse of the dollar. So central banks and other governments, they don't want to be caught off guard. They know that it's inevitable at some point, so they are, continuing to fill their reserves with gold. Obviously, all the political and economic pressures as well haven't helped. So these little temporary dips really are just buying opportunities. I mean, when I say that, we're still a few $100s higher than we started the year, and it's crazy to think, we're already 6 months into the new year. But yeah, there's no signs of slowing in the physical gold market at this point.
Right. And that price prediction or that threshold they're talking of $2,365 an ounce,
Hmm.
that pales in comparison to the number of analysts that came out and talked about by year's end, they're anticipating or expecting to see gold prices as much as $3,000 an ounce, if not more.
Right.
And it's all due to this decaying process that is happening, or erosion, if you will, in
Hmm.
our currency systems throughout the world. That as we've covered BRICS, where you've got, this alliance that's being formed that is trying to de-dollarize their economies to strengthen their own currencies and to get
Right.
away from, as you mentioned, the not only the dependence on the dollar, but the pressure and the force that's been exerted on these countries by the U.S. government by way of the petrodollar and some of the other things that has kind of forced them to play ball, and in some cases detrimentally to their countries. So,
Right.
well, Chris, if somebody wanted to get maybe a copy of your secret war report and or learn a little bit more about gold or your walking liberty half silver offer, how would they
Mhm.
do that?
Yeah, go to the website. We've got some pop-ups there where you can request information. Obviously, you can call us at our main 800 number, 1-800-289-2646 or 1-800-BUY-COIN. And just let us know you'd like a free information packet sent out. There is no obligation. There's no, people always ask, what is the catch? There really isn't. We're big on education here. The more people that understand what's going on and learn about these issues, the more referrals we're going to get, the more people we're going to be able to help, and people are going to be better off in general. So it's a win-win. Like buying gold right now, I think there really is no downside. Educate yourself, and then you can have the knowledge to protect yourself.
Well, there you go. Nothing more I can add to that. The only thing I would add or say is if you aren't subscribed to this podcast, please do so. And if you're not following us on social media, please do that as well. Hit us with a few likes so we can grow our audience and reach more people, as Chris said, and get them some information, the same type of information that we're giving you here today. So thank you so much, Chris. Until next time, we will see you again, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Take care.